Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining us for the latest in the Finit webinar series. My name is Greg Barrett. I'm one of the partners at Finit. I'm just going to do a little bit of the introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bryan Hogan, one of the leads on our planning and S-Space team, and he'll be walking you through today's webinar. So with that, I'll try and speed through this intro pretty quickly. So Finit, what do we do? If you haven't attended any of these before, really we do everything around the Hyperion products. Full implementations, upgrades, obviously becoming more and more common. We also do dedicated support, and this is kind of a different thing that we do. We have a group of 12 folks now that don't travel and do support for our clients, and it's really evolved in a great way for us as a company. We originally created it because we had some really talented and experienced people who were no longer looking to travel and do the traditional consulting life. So for us, we were able to retain some really excellent people, and for our clients, it allows them to kind of have easy access to those folks and get answers to questions. We do not charge any kind of fixed fee, so it's just regular hourly fee for this option. So a lot of our existing clients are utilizing that service. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out. But really a great service that we offer that's a little bit different from what else is out there. Okay, so why are we here? Again, I mean, this is always a theme for us at Finit. We think of ourselves as a different kind of company. We're the type of people that dig in and get our hands dirty. We really try to develop personal relationships, not just company to company. We're always looking to build the best solutions for our clients. We're not looking to just apply cookie cutter solutions for our clients. We're looking to make your lives easier and better with these Hyperion tools. So a little bit more about us. We're privately owned, 100% debt-free. When you work with Finit, you're working with our employees. We don't win business and subcontract it out. And our focus is on client satisfaction. To that end, every project we do, we actually ask you to tell us how our teams have performed. And that's how we give bonus to our employees. It's really how our clients tell us that we did. So most consulting companies, they have a setup where if you charge in a certain number of hours, you get a bonus. And if you're on a project and you know if you charge in a specific number of hours, you're probably going to figure out a way to do that so you get your bonus whether it helps the client or not. So we've kind of removed that conflict of interest, and our clients tell us how we did. That's how our people get bonus. So we ask our clients to provide feedback on our values. So we focus on service, solutions, and betterment. This is kind of the survey. We ask people to tell us how our teams did, and that kind of dictates the performance bonus for us. So that setup, I mean, we've had this since our inception. Allows us to make this really important statement. We have 100% customer success. We now have over 250 clients, and this number at the bottom, 500, is what's really more important to us. It kind of says that, you know, over the years we're slowly building to becoming trusted advisor. We're not just here to do a quick win and do a singular project. We're trying to develop through that initial project that relationship and have you use us as that trusted advisor. We're helping on future projects as well. So that's our goal, is to always be building that relationship. Just some of our clients. I'm sure some of you on the webinar here are represented up on this slide, but just a quick sample. Kind of the idea here is, I mean, big or small, across all different kind of industries. We've run the gamut. It's really any companies that work with the products we work with end up our clients. And so this is Bryan's second webinar for us. Bryan's got, as you can see, a ton of experience with the products, but also Bryan was an FP&A director. So not only does he have the deep application experience, but he's also got that functional experience, being involved in the FP&A world. So he can kind of speak to both, not just here's how you do this in S-Base and planning, but more here's why you would do this, or here's what we did at my previous company when we were doing our budget and forecast. So, so with that, I'll turn it over to you, Bryan.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and what I'm going to take you through today is really talking about the planning process. We're going to talk more of a functional view and talk through some methodology, some terminology, kind of have a brief view into the day of the life of an FP&A and planning team. And also, we're going to look at some of the pain points in the planning process. So really today, it's definitely functional. It also, even though it is more functionally based, it is at least something to think about and something to work through as you start to, if you're looking to update your planning process, maybe do a systemic process. This will give you some things to think about and things to consider as you head down that path. So I started out here with a quick Dilbert comment because it always scares me, and it's amazing how close Scott Adams always is to the real world, the real business world, and especially the world that I've lived in. Maybe it's just that he's so generic. It's kind of like a horoscope that it's easily applied, but it's still crazy how accurate it can be sometimes. And I think this particular comic, summed up the mentality of some companies that I've worked for, and then I've heard other people that I know that work for, and how they view the planning process. And in this case, the planning is just seen as another exercise. It has to be done. It's no real reason for it. It's not used as a tool. And so I think a lot of companies, don't embrace how powerful a tool, a plan can be. And so today I'm going to go through and highlight several things related to the planning process and try to shed some light on how plans and forecasts can be used and be a more effective tool in managing a business. So a few things that we're going to try to cover today, some components of the planning process to consider. Number one, who should be involved in the process? Am I involving everybody that should be? And we'll talk through some of that. There are different types of plans and forecasts out there, so which plan or forecast process should I be using? We'll go through some of the terminology related to that. The data is always a key when it comes to building a system or having a process in place, and whether it's via Excel or some other system, the data is always seems to always give you the most roadblocks and the most stumbling blocks. So what's the source of all the base data, and where's all my input data to drive the forecast coming from? What level of detail should I be planning and forecasting the business? Should I be going to cost center level, or is there some higher level I should be focused on? And again, back to the base data, what level is that data coming in at, and do I need to aggregate that up before I start planning against it? So there's a level of detail conversation that needs to take place in the planning process. As it is with any process, who are the consumers of the results? So, who's going to actually use this data when I'm done? Is it just going to be the finance team? Is it going to be spread out to a lot of different users? So, who are those consumers of the plan? And then, lastly, how are those results going to be delivered? Is it going to be an online system where people can go and access their own reporting? Are you going to distribute reporting? Things like that. So I'm going to touch on a few of these today. And if you have other questions that you've either thought about or that are on your mind, definitely, as Greg mentioned, put those in the chat, and we'll try to answer those at the end. So first of all, who should be involved? So typically it makes sense that your finance and accounting teams make up the core of your planning team. And you're obviously also going to have some key business stakeholders, because as you're trying to forecast your business, you need that business expertise to help with the inputs. They may not be doing some of the planning functionality itself, but they definitely are going to be available for inputs or needed for inputs into the system. And then obviously your senior management team, for reviewing the data, reviewing the final plans, forecasts, and then making any appropriate decisions that need to be made about those plans and forecasts. So some companies avoid involving other departments in the planning process. I think they shouldn't be involved, and I guess there's a dependency on a number of factors that I would say, should you include other people in the process. The biggest thing I would say is the complexity of the business model. If you've got a very complex business and a lot of moving parts, it might make sense to have more people involved in the process. And maybe that's, would that be an operations people, production people, any of those other teams that should be involved. Also, timing, of course, on the other hand, if you've got a quick turnaround on some of these forecasts or plans, you don't want to get too big of a team where it makes it hard to get decisions made and get data pulled together. So there's definitely a sort of a balance there you've got to find. The methodology being used is important because if you are doing a full bottoms-up type forecast, you need a lot of input from a lot of different people, so that may actually require that you add more people to the process. And then, is your planning team, do they really know your business? And if they do know your business, then maybe you don't need as many people involved. But if there's a learning curve there, or if there's, the business again is so complex that the finance team doesn't know it as well as they should, maybe, then you may have to involve some more people in the front to get up that learning curve. And so when I'm talking specifically about accounting and finance, I wanted to, everybody tweaks these roles or uses them interchangeably, the accounting and finance roles. So to clarify, when I personally talk about accounting and finance and places that I've worked in the past, there's a definite difference between the two. And so the accounting group has, I put some pros and cons here, or some, I guess, some different factors about the different groups just to kind of clarify what I'm saying. The accounting group, every month-end and year-end close cycle, they're very similar. You're processing journal entries, you're posting payroll, producing reporting, so that the cycles are very similar on every period or every year-end, so that process is relatively static. The accounting group, typically reports only historical information, so last period, period over period, quarterly information, it's all historical, and does some comparisons, to last period or last year. And the biggest thing I would think that's different between accounting and finance is accounting obviously are bound by GAAP and accounting rules and principles. So they've got a very stringent set of rules that have to be followed when it comes to doing the reporting and analysis from an accounting perspective. And I had a manager in the past that said basically, in his mind, accounting, they report the news. They're reporting what has happened, they're reporting, results, doing comparison on results, to prior periods and things like that. When you look at a traditional FP&A role, it's a little bit different. Some of those same factors are a little bit different. For one, for FP&A, the forecast cycle is different, or can be different, every single time you do a forecast. Business trends, different thoughts about, how the direction of the company should go, things like that may change how you forecast. And so in that case, every cycle could be completely different. Not focused on the historical data, so they're always looking to predict the future performance. So again, not the historical view, this is definitely future view. You use that historical information, but you're really focused on the future view of that and trending that out and looking at what impacts are going to be in the future, whether it be a month down the road or 5 years down the road. And again, the biggest differences between accounting and finance in my mind is FP&A doesn't have that gap or those accounting rules when it comes to modeling and doing analysis. It's definitely a blank slate when you get started, and it's just a matter of coming up with whatever the analysis needs to be, whatever the business is dictating at that point that you need to analyze. And so it's a wide open arena of how to do that work. And so again, back to the reporting of the news by the accounting group, FP&A sort of helps create that news. They're looking to predict the future, working with management to make those decisions to drive the future direction of the company. Both are very critical. By no means would I say either is more important than the other. They're both very critical when it comes to decision making by management, and then analyzing those trends and giving that forward-looking view of the business. So both very important to the process, which is why I think accounting and finance really should both be part of a planning team, at least in some way, shape, or form.